What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. We have a Lingsha pre-release guide, and honestly this is going to be a quick video because there's not really too much intricacies when it comes to Lingsha. She's very similar to a character we already have in Gallagher, and they build themselves pretty much almost the same way, although there are a few intricacies that Lingsha has that Gallagher does not, and we'll be discussing those later on in the video. Before we begin, remember to like the video, leave a comment in the comment section below, and consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. To start off, this is not the creator experience server. This is actually the in-game Luminary War Dance event that we have actually access to a trial Lingsha that we can click on character details, and then we can actually take a look at Lingsha. So I'm going to be using this to build my guide. So essentially, Lingsha is a fire abundance character that covers a lot of ground in the most popular teams, which makes her pretty splashable in either of them. She is a follow-up attack character, and she is also a break character. She has a really easy time breaking enemies as long as they have a fire weakness, which is very convenient because the most common break team is the Firefly team, which she implants fire weakness onto enemies, which makes Lingsha extremely effective at breaking them. I would say the second or third most popular team is going to be the follow-up attack team with Fei Zhao. Lingsha also fits extremely well in that team because of her follow-up attacks frequency. She actually fires off pretty frequent follow-up attacks, which makes her a really good candidate for that team as well. All right, taking a look at her abilities, her basic attack is just a traditional basic attack, just hits the enemy once, but with one of her traces, she gets an extra 10 energy, kind of like the same effect that Sparkle has, that whenever she does her basic, she gets an extra 10 energy, which means she doesn't lose any energy by using a basic attack, which you sometimes want to use depending on your skill point management and the team you're running. The important thing to take note here is the toughness reduction damage, which is 10, and this is going to be very common throughout her kit. Most of her kit has 10 toughness reduction, except for her ultimate, which has 20, but we're going to cover that a little bit later. Second is going to be her skill is an AoE that deals fire damage to all enemies and also deals 10 toughness reduction to every enemy because it's AoE obviously, and it action advances the bunny, which is Fu Yuan, by 20%. This is very important because the bunny is where she's going to get the most break damage, the most super break damage, the most follow-ups comes from the bunny. That's pretty much everything that she does comes from the bunny. So Fu Yuan, we're just going to call it the bunny. Moving on to her ultimate, as I said before, it does 20 toughness reduction, which is really good. Energy cost of 110, inflicts befog on all enemies, and while in befog, enemies take 25% increased break damage. It says 22 here because her traces are level 8 right now, but at level 10 traces, it's 25 increased break damage, which also includes super break damage. As a little segue, I will be releasing a brand new break effect guide coming either this week or next week, so stay tuned for that. Essentially, befog increases break damage by 25%, and break damage also includes super break damage, so this is a 25% vulnerability on break and super break damage, which is insane for Boot Hill teams, Firefly teams, and stuff like that. It also deals fire damage to everybody on the field and advances the bunny's action by 100%, which means that her toughness reduction is actually 30 on the ultimate because she does 20 from the ultimate itself and then 10 from the Fu Yuan follow-up attack. Moving on to her talent, this is pretty much describe what the bunny is. When using skill, summons Fu Yuan with initial speed of 90, so it is a kind of like a summon. Whenever you do your skill, you get 3 stacks of the bunny, which is 3 stacks means that the bunny can just move 3 times, and every time the bunny moves, that stack count goes down by 1. But every time you use your skill, you get 3 more. So essentially, you always want to use your skill every 3 turns, so you can keep it maxed out at 5, or you can leave it at 3 if you really want to, but you don't have to let it get to like 0. You can, once you're at 1, you can re-up it to 4, and then you can just keep doing it every 3 turns and you'll be fine. This essentially makes it to where Lingsha can be as skill point positive as you need her to be, or you can use as many skill points as you need because you may just need the healing, or you may just need the break, or you may just need the damage. Like, you can pretty much play her pretty liberally. You can do whatever you want with her. When taking action, the bunny launches a follow-up attack dealing fire damage equal to whatever, and it's an AoE hit, and then it dispels 1 debuff from the enemies, and it also restores HP equal to 11% of Lingsha's attack plus 319. This restores HP equal to 12% at level 10, plus I think it's 340 of Lingsha's attack. So she's an attack scaling healer, kind of like Luocha, but in the sense that you don't really have to invest a lot in attack. Like, of the main stats that you could get, let's say on the orb, you can probably throw an attack orb in there. The boots don't probably throw that in there, and then I'll go in healing for the chest, but we're going to cover that a little bit later. So this is pretty much telling you that for the orb, just throw in an attack orb there, so you can get that little bit of extra healing, but you really don't need it because she really heals really frequently, so you don't really need to invest too heavily into attack. Her 2 traces, Vermilion Waft, increases units attack or outgoing healing by an amount equal to 25%, and 10% of break effect up to a maximum of 50 and 20% respectively. Essentially, if you have 200% break effect, you will be able to max this out, and I'll show you how easy it is to actually get 200% break effect, especially in the break team that she's perfectly capable of sustaining and she's preferable in. Is really easy to get 200% break effect to max this out. So an extra 50% attack and 20% outgoing healing. So either you go with outgoing healing chest or attack chest. It really makes not that much of a difference, but obviously outgoing healing is preferred. The next trace, Ember's Echo. When Fuyuan is on the field and any ally character takes damage or consumes HP and the character's team has their current HP percentage lower than or equal to 60, Fuyuan will immediately launch a Talon's follow-up attack. This mumbo jumbo pretty much means emergency heal when you take a big hit. If you take a big hit and your character falls below 60%, the bunny is going to immediately launch a follow-up attack, cleansing and healing your entire team, which is a very good thing to have when it comes to healing. That's what makes Aventurine so strong. That's what makes Luocha really strong. Emergency healing is what makes sustains really strong. This also gives the ability of the enemies to hurt themselves, because like if you get hit, they bring your health down to 60% on any character, right? And then she launches a follow-up attack and the follow-up attack breaks. That can also interrupt the enemy attack flow, and then it may turn a disadvantage into a very strong advantage. So this Ember's Echo right here is very strong, not only because it's an emergency, it's also because it's defense and offense at the same time, and it's also out of turn. So it's really strong. And then lastly, we have her technique. You use your technique and then you immediately summon the bunny with, I think, 3 actions, and then you have Befog on all enemies. And again, Befog is a 25% vulnerability on break damage. So her kit is really easy to understand. She launches follow-up attacks. Every time she follow-ups, she heals and cleanses your entire team, and then all her actions except her basic attack advances the action of the bunny. Now we're going to go down the list for her light cone options. We're going to go ahead and pull up my Gallagher, right? Because he's the most comparable unit. So for her light cone options, we have a few that may work, right? Obviously, the 4-star What Is Real is the best option that we have when it comes to a free-to-play option. Because this is a fully free-to-play light cone, we can have this 48% break effect. And after you use the basic, you restore HP for the wearer by an amount of 4%. She heals herself. This part really doesn't matter. What's really important is the 48% break effect. Also, Quid Pro Quo, she is a very good user of Quid Pro Quo as well. At the start of the wearer's turn, regenerate 10 energy for a random chosen ally whose current energy is lower than 50%. If you use this on a Firefly team, since Firefly's ultimate is so high, odds are that she's not going to be at 120 energy. So those 10 energy is probably going to funnel into Firefly because everybody else is more likely to be over 50% energy. But if you have it on that team, an extra 10 energy per turn that she goes is really good. So this is a very good light cone as well. Honestly, any of the abundance light cones that focus on healing or energy funneling will work on Lingsha, because it's never bad to have extra energy. But if you are going to focus on her break and break damage and you want to maximize her traces, then probably What Is Real or her signature light cone is probably the best. Her signature light cone increases the wearer's break effect by 60, and after the wearer uses ultimate to attack enemy targets, inflict the targets with Woe Free, lasting for 2 turns. While in Woe Free, the enemy takes 10% increased damage, and the effect of this increased damage is additionally boosted by 8% if the wearer's break effect is greater than 150. Since we want to shoot for a 200% break effect, this light cone's break effect threshold will be always met, which means that not only you're going to get the 25% vulnerability on break damage, you're also going to get an extra 18% vulnerability on all damage. So for break damage in total is a total of 43% increased vulnerability, which with the release of Jiaosha, we already know how strong 43% vulnerability is, because vulnerability is just a 1-to-1 damage conversion ratio. So that light cone is really strong. Lingsha giving everybody a 18% vulnerability, pretty much unconditional. Like it's really good. It turns Lingsha kind of like a pseudo nihility character, which for a character whose role is to heal, her doing that with a light cone, or actually having that on a light cone as an option, is very strong. So if I had to rank them, I would put her signature light cone as number 1. Obviously, the What Is Real light cone that we have right here as number 2. And then Quid Pro Quo, I would put it at number 3. Those are that's how I would put the light cones to use on her. But like I said, any light cone that gives her energy or that distributes energy to other teammates, will probably be very good. Or as far as her like traces, her main thing is that she gets 37.3% break effect, which is really good for when it comes to building her, because we already have 37.3% break effect. We have 48% if you're going to use what is her real light cone. So that's all that's like what, 80 something, almost 90% break effect already. That's not counting the relic sets, not counting pretty much anything. It's just the traces and the light cone. Speaking of relics, so they have her in the 4-piece cavalry and the 2-piece Kalpagni, and this is very good if you're going to run her with a Firefly team. But if you are not going to run her in a Firefly team, you're like running her on a team that is capable of her dealing the breaks is very important. If you're going to run her on this set, it only increases your super break damage. If you're not going to run her in a super break team, then I suggest running her on the Thief set, because the Thief set funnels energy into herself, which means that you have an emergency heal pretty much all the time, extra follow-up attacks, extra attacks, and let's say you're using her on a Phage Out team. I think this will probably be best, because funneling a few energy back into her makes it easier for her to launch her ultimate, which means more follow-ups, which means more attacks, which means more stacks for Phage Out. One ultimate from Lingsha means one full stack for Phage Out, so it's really good. Also, her ultimate is the one that inflicts Befog, so for an Acheron team, it's also very good to have a Befog inflictor, especially if you have her signature Lycon. Having her launch more ultimates on a team that's not Firefly focused, it's very good. So if you're not going to run her with Firefly, I suggest running her with the Thief set. If you are going to run her with Firefly, then I suggest running the 4-piece cavalry, 2-piece Kalpagni. I think the 2-piece Kalpagni is also the de facto best in slot, because of the reason that even if they're not fire weak, you still get the 6% speed, and she needs speed. She wants speed as fast as you can possibly make her. Right here, they have her at 141 speed, which is really decent. With run mates, 150 speed. But if you can get it to like 161 speed, which should be pretty easy considering you have a 10% from Ruan Mei, that's actually pretty good. Now, as far as her actual relics, right? So I'm going to use Gallagher as an example, right? As far as her actual relics, I would just focus on speed and break effect. And if you can focus speed, break effect, and attack, I would go break effect first, speed second, and then attack on every single piece. So if a piece can have break effect, speed, and attack, just throw that in there. As far as the chest, I would probably do outgoing healing chest first, and then attack chest second. And then after that, you can throw in defense, HP, or whatever if you don't have it. For boots, definitely speed boots. 100% of the time, you want speed boots on her with break effect subs and attack subs if you have it. As far as the orb, I think the only option here would be the attack orb, because she actually benefits from attack. So this is actually the most important one. You really want the attack orb here. I know my Gallagher doesn't, like, I have fire boost on my Gallagher, but that's because it's the only orb I could find for him. And as far as rope, you can actually run break effect rope or energy regeneration rope. I prefer energy regeneration rope because, like I said, if you build energy regen, she's going to have an easier time launching attacks, which means more follow-up attacks, which means more healing, more cleansing, more everything. I will do a Kalpagni energy regen rope with break effect, speed, and attack if I can have it. Let me see if I have one. I don't have one. I just have this one that has break effect. So I'm probably just going to throw this in there. If it rolls, let me see. Let's roll it real quick. Let's see if it rolls speed. If it rolls speed, I'm definitely... Okay, it didn't roll speed. It rolled attack, which I could also use. But this is probably the rope that I would be using on a Lingsha if I had it. Or when I pull for her. I don't know if I'm going to pull for her or not. She's very easy to build. Very simple. And she's very similar to Gallagher. All right, as far as her Eidolons, let's discuss these. Because she is kind of like an Eidolon, like a whale bait type of character. Her E1 is very strong. Lingsha's weakness break efficiency increased by 50%, and when an enemy unit's weakness is broken, it reduces their defense by 20%. This is actually going to come in a debuff kind of way, so she's also going to be really good with ratio when it comes to her E1. If you have her on E1, she becomes a monster, because now she's going to be doing a lot of damage, because now what was 90, her ultimate, that let's say it does 20 plus the 10, now is 135, which is a lot of toughness damage. Like this increases her overall damage by so much. And remember, the defense reduction here accumulates with the defense reduction from the cavalry set, so it just compiles and compiles. Her E2, when using her ultimate, increases all allies break effect by 40%, lasting for 3 turns. So once you fire off your ultimate, you're pretty much gonna have 40% break effect on everybody forever, because it's really easy for her to get her ultimate anyway, especially if she's getting breaks. Her E3 is just more stat upgrades for her ultimate and talent. Her E4, when Fuyuan takes action, which is the bunny, restores HP equal to 40% of Lingsha's attack for the ally whose current HP is the lowest. So this is pretty much extra healing when she launches the follow-up attack, which is not really needed because she already healed so much. And then at E6, while Fuyuan is on the field, reduce all enemies all-type resistant by 20%. This is insane. When Fuyuan attacks, additionally deals 4 instances of damage, with each instance of damage dealing both fire damage equal to 50% Lingsha's attack and toughness reduction of 5 to single random enemy. This prioritizes target with both toughness greater than 0 and fire weakness. Aside from the follow-up attack, you have an extra 4 instances of damage that each deal 5 toughness damage. This is an extra 20% toughness reduction damage. With the weakness break efficiency from the E1 makes this an insane amount of toughness reduction. Remember, the follow-up attack is 10, and then she gets an extra 20, which means it's 30, and then you have that with the weakness break efficiency, it makes it 45. So this is essentially the same thing as launching your ultimate. So it's really, really strong. This is going to deal an insane amount of toughness damage, especially if there's only one enemy on the field. So Lingsha is definitely a whale bait character, not a whale bait, more like a dolphin bait character. More for her E1S1. If you have her E1S1, she is such an upgrade from just having a Gallagher. That is actually insane. If you're not going for the E1S1, then I just recommend not going for her at all. If you already have an E6 Gallagher, by the way. All right, paying attention to the bottom here in the team lineup, I'm going to use this as like the teams section. So the team section is pretty self-explanatory. You have Firefly, Rowan, May, HMC, and Lingsha, which is the standard super break team. If you are going to swap, you can also throw in Boot Hill in here, also the same thing. If you want, you can also swap this for a Bronya and run the exact same team. So pretty much anywhere you would run a Gallagher, you can also run a Boot Hill. If you have her E1S1, you can also run this team as well. You can swap Zhao Xiao for Robin. You can swap her for Robin. You can run this team. This team is actually really, really strong. She inflicts a debuff. He inflicts a debuff. She enables Acheron to go more. It's really, really good. Essentially, anywhere that you would have used Gallagher, you can replace Lingsha with, and she is slightly better than Gallagher in almost every sense. In the only manner that she's not better than Gallagher is in single target breaking, but in every other scenario, Lingsha is better than Gallagher. But in my opinion, she is not worth just getting an E0 copy of her. If you're going to get E0S1, it may be worth it, but E1 is when I say it's really worth it. Like if you're going to get an E1 Lingsha, then that's what I would probably do, because she is very, very strong at E1. At E0, not that much. E1, insanely strong. So this was like a little quick pre-release guide on our girl Lingsha. She releases in about a week from now, so stay tuned for that. I may be pulling for her. I'm definitely pulling for the Topaz Lycone, so stay tuned for that as well. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and until next time, guys. See ya.